Imagine you're floating in the middle of the ocean. The water is calm. The sunlight cuts through the blue below you. Then a shadow moves beneath you, longer than a school bus, wider than your living room, and heavy enough to make the water around it shudder. You've just met the most terrifying predator to ever rule the seas, the Megalodon. This wasn't just a shark. It was the largest shark in Earth's history, reaching up to 60 feet in length, twice the size of the biggest great white alive today, and weighing as much as 100 tons. Its teeth were the size of a human hand, serrated like steak knives, and arranged in a jaw that could crush a car with a single bite. Scientists estimate its bite force at over 40,000 pounds, making it one of the most powerful bites in the history of life itself. For millions of years, the Megalodon dominated the world's oceans. It wasn't just a hunter, it was the hunter. Whales, seals, giant sea turtles, even other sharks were on the menu. It didn't have natural enemies. It didn't have rivals. It swam wherever it wanted, claiming the warm coastal waters and deep blue highways of the ancient seas as its own. But here's the twist. This monster disappeared only about 3.6 million years ago, practically yesterday in the timeline of Earth. It's long gone, or at least, that's what we believe. Fossils tell us its story, but the question still lingers in the back of our minds. What if it never went extinct? If the Megalodon still swam beneath our oceans today, every dive, every fishing trip, every voyage across the seas would carry a shadow of danger. The oceans we know would not be the oceans we grew up with. And for us, survival out there would look very, very different. Would we even dare to enter the water? Or would the sea itself become off-limits to humankind? To understand what it would mean for the Megalodon to still be here, you need to picture the oceans of its time. Millions of years ago, during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, Earth's seas were warmer, richer, and alive with giants. Pods of prehistoric whales roamed in massive numbers. Sea turtles as large as cars glided effortlessly between continents. Schools of enormous fish shimmered just below the surface. It was a predator's paradise, and the Megalodon sat at the very top. Its size alone gave it control over its world. But this wasn't a slow, lumbering beast. Despite its bulk, the Megalodon was a master of ambush. It would strike from below, using the element of surprise to hit prey before they even knew it was there. Whales, often weighing several tons themselves, could be fatally wounded in a single bone-shattering bite. Researchers believe Megalodons often targeted the softer, more vulnerable areas of their prey, flippers, tails, and underbellies, crippling them before delivering a killing strike. And it didn't need to feed every day. A single large kill could sustain it for weeks. But when hunger returned, nothing in the sea could stop it. Great white sharks, which we think of as apex predators today, would have been nothing more than smaller competition. If a Megalodon wanted the same meal, the smaller shark backed away. If it wanted to live, its presence shaped the balance of the ocean. The threat it posed kept populations of large marine animals in check. Whale migration routes, feeding grounds, even breeding patterns were influenced by the risk of encountering one of these giants. In a way, the Megalodon didn't just live in the ancient oceans, it ruled them, as much a force of nature as the tides themselves. It's almost impossible to imagine that something so powerful could vanish. And yet they did. Changing climates, shifting sea levels, and competition for food all played a role in their disappearance. But here's the question. What if those changes never happened? What if the Megalodon survived, and those hunting grounds of warm, rich oceans still belonged to it? That's when the world we know begins to look very different. Because if it still swam among us, our oceans, and our lives would never be the same. Now imagine today's oceans with the Megalodon still alive. Warm coastal waters, shipping lanes, fishing grounds, anywhere whales and large prey travel would be its hunting territory. The North Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, the Pacific coasts, all of them would be prime real estate for the most fearsome predator on Earth. Every journey across the sea would carry risk. Cargo ships might still make their long voyages, but with reinforced hulls designed to withstand an impact from a 100-ton predator. Fishing fleets would need armed escorts or sonar monitoring just to work safely. And cruise lines? Many of today's vacation destinations could become off-limits entirely. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship and watching a dark, moving shadow longer than the vessel's beam pass beneath you. Whale watching tours. They'd either be dangerous beyond reason, or they'd become Megalodon watching tours, an entirely different spectacle, one where a single wrong move could mean disaster. And it wouldn't just be ships in danger. Coastal communities in warm water regions might face Megalodons venturing closer to shore, following migrating prey. Beaches could be closed for months at a time. Surfers, divers, and swimmers would have to think twice before entering the water, knowing something with jaws big enough to swallow them whole could be nearby. Even air travel across oceans might shift. Shipping lanes and flight paths are often planned together for rescue operations, but if search and rescue in open water meant facing a living Megalodon, emergency procedures would change drastically. The ocean would become a different kind of wilderness, one where humans were no longer at the top of the chain. Even with our technology, we'd still explore, fish, and sail, but every movement on the water would be shaped by the question, is it out there right now? And if it was, the next challenge wouldn't just be avoiding it, but understanding how its presence would rewrite the ocean's balance forever. If the Megalodon still patrolled our oceans, the most immediate impact would be felt by the largest marine mammals, especially whales. These predators needed enormous amounts of food, and whales were their prime target. Even if they didn't wipe out entire populations, the pressure of constant predation would drastically reduce whale numbers worldwide. That change would ripple through the entire food chain. Whales play a vital role in marine ecosystems, not just as predators or prey, but as ecosystem engineers. Their feeding habits stir nutrients from deep in the ocean to the surface, fueling plankton growth. Their waste releases key elements that support entire chains of life, from microscopic organisms to massive fish populations. With fewer whales, plankton blooms would shrink, meaning less food for krill, which in turn means less food for countless fish species. Some species might flourish in the Megalodon's shadow. Smaller sharks and mid-sized predators could see less competition from whales for certain prey, but many others would decline. Entire migration patterns could shift as marine animals try to avoid high-risk areas. Places that are today teeming with life, like certain coastal feeding grounds, might become eerily empty. The effects wouldn't stop at the waterline. Seabirds, which rely heavily on fish schools and ocean surface life, could suffer from reduced food availability. Island and coastal ecosystems that depend on rich marine life would struggle. Even human fishing industries would take a hit, not just because of the danger, but because the balance of species we rely on would be disrupted. And here's the thing, the Megalodon's dominance wouldn't just be a matter of raw power. Its very presence would dictate behavior. Prey species would breed in different locations. Migration routes might avoid entire ocean basins. The patterns of life we've known for thousands of years could look completely different. It's a reminder of how much influence a single apex predator can have, not just on the species it hunts, but on the health of the entire ocean. And if we think about living alongside it, we're not just talking about surviving in the same waters, we're talking about adapting to an ocean that would never belong to us again. If the Megalodon still ruled the oceans, every aspect of how we interact with the sea would have to change. Fishing fleets would operate under strict safety protocols, equipped with heavy sonar systems to detect approaching predators. Commercial ships might be built with armored hulls, not just for storms or ice, but to withstand the force of a charging 100-ton shark. Coastal cities would need advanced warning networks, like hurricane alerts, but for predators. Tourism would be transformed. Popular beach destinations in warm water regions might vanish entirely, replaced by observation platforms and heavily protected marine parks. Diving expeditions would shift from exploring coral reefs to cautiously tracking megalodons from reinforced cages, if such a thing could even be made safe. Search and rescue operations would face a chilling dilemma. Every recovery at sea would need to weigh the risk of entering waters where an apex predator could be lurking just out of sight. Military navies might even be tasked with monitoring and managing megalodon populations to keep them away from busy shipping and fishing zones. But despite the danger, curiosity would drive us to study them. Scientists would dedicate entire careers to understanding their biology, behavior, and migration. Documentaries would become global events. Seeing a megalodon in the wild, even from a safe distance, would be one of the rarest and most sought-after experiences on Earth. The truth, though, is that coexistence would demand enormous sacrifices. Vast stretches of ocean could become effectively off-limits. Entire economies dependent on fishing, shipping, and tourism might shrink or relocate. And for every thrilling sighting, there would likely be tragedies, reminders of the sheer power we'd be dealing with. So, could we live alongside the megalodon? Maybe, but it wouldn't be the same world we know. The ocean would no longer be a place of casual adventure. It would be a kingdom with a ruler we could never truly challenge. And if that ruler had survived until today, the seas might still belong to them, not us.